Okay, we're back, we're live, we're at ThinkTech Talks here on a given Wednesday. Wednesday, my favorite day of the week, because Wednesday is always, inevitably, Energy Wednesday. And of course, it's Hawaii, the state of clean energy. My co-host is Ray Starling. Hi, Ray.
Hi, Jay.
Thanks for being here.
I'm glad to be here.
And our other co-host, our other erstwhile co-host, is in somewhere deep in the bowels of Europe, examining the currency issues there, I'm sure, and the energy issues as well. And we have today, for the first part of the show anyway, Mark Glick from the Energy Office at DBED to talk about what's been going on in a number of exciting developments. Hi, Mark.
Hi.
Thanks for coming down.
Thank you, Jay.
So let's sort of just some of the things that I know and that Ray knows. Let's set the stage, okay? First is there was this remarkable press conference yesterday over some decision by the PUC not to accept the IRP that was submitted a few months ago, and to flush that whole process. What happened, Ray?
Well, actually, a lot of people are still looking at the very lengthy document that describes what the PUC issued in its order, decision and order. And so it's not entirely clear. People are not feeling comfortable talking about it right now until they really get a feel, because they not only issued that, they issued 3 other orders that were in some ways related to the IRP. And so basically what we can say is that the IRP process that had gone on with a fairly sizable working group with the utilities.
It was almost 50 people, more than 50 people.
It was quite a few people, yeah. And actually the PUC had wanted to do it differently from the way it had always been done. By the way, it's always been done in a way that served us well for over 100 years. So we were sort of following along that same path. But the recognition was that change was coming, and we needed to change. So the process was designed to try to come up with a broader idea of what needs to be done, having a lot of stakeholders feeding into this process. And at the end of the day, the process looked pretty much like it had been looked at by a lot of people, but it came up with a lot of the same kinds of conclusions. And ultimately, the PUC rejected it and said that that was not going far enough. It did make some changes, but it was not where the PUC wanted it to go, as I gather from their decision. And so they rejected it and basically said, here's the plan that we would like for you to follow. And again, people are trying to get their arms around what that all means.
Whatever it is, this is disruptive. I mean, in the sense that it changes things. It's not the way it was anymore. It's different, and we're not sure exactly. You know about this?
Yeah, I heard about it. I attended the press conference, and we viewed it. We issued a press release afterwards, and we viewed it as a very positive step. The administration strongly supportive of the 4 decision and orders, as well as the call for 2 action improvement plans in generation and in the whole grid modernization effort, and things that I think the Commission found lacking in the integrated resource plan. So it gives HECO and Hawaii Electric companies 120 days to put together those 2 action plans, and I think the PUC really ought to be commended for taking a strong stand, taking the time to write what's essentially a good roadmap for what should be looked at, what kinds of answers should be forthcoming from the utility. And we look forward to working together to try to get those plans into place, digest them, and come up with a good working result after that to solve interconnection problems, work towards inter-island transmission, to try to deal with bottlenecks, and also improve efficiency of power plants, and work towards solutions that will provide real rate relief to
Yeah.
ratepayers.
It is a turning point, doesn't it sound like to me? Because whatever we were doing before, whether you say it was the best, format or not, it took a long time and didn't give us a result. And without having read all the material that's involved, I'm sure you have, Mark, but it strikes me is that this is an attempt to wrestle more directly with all these pending questions,
Right.
and make a format that will actually give us a result. And that can't be bad. That's got to be a good thing.
And I think the commission and the commission staff did a lot of work. I mean, you can't try to sift through those documents without realizing that they were very well thought through. They were linked together, and the staff did a great job of getting it pulled together. And the PUC commissioners, I think, made a bold move in doing what they're doing. And I think I've already heard from people on the mainland, they're really watching this because this is critical. We're at the cutting edge of what's going on out here, and this was a big step in a direction that's never been taken before. So
Yeah.
I think it's good.
Well, and we worked last year with the governor very closely, Richard Lim, myself, to develop new energy policy directives. The PUC incorporated those in their findings, and as the governor said, to achieve true energy transformation, which is really what Hawaii, has been doing. All of us have been working to do that. It requires no less than this, and he was clear. What came out yesterday were not recommendations; they were actual guidelines for action, and he called it a real transformative moment in the clean energy agenda, a real important step, and I agree.
Yeah, shout out for the PUC, yay!
Yeah.
Shout out for Carl Friedman too, because he
He did a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
It was a long process for everybody on that working group.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next one. I'm going to go to Derek Sonota out there, patient.
Oh, I was wondering if
we haven't forgotten
the
Derek.
megawatt moment.
Don't go away, Derek. But the other thing I wanted to mention in the way of big news is the barrel tax passed, and that is something. Struggling with that. Shout out for the whole ledge. Yeah. And so that's a good thing. What does it mean in the larger sense? What does it mean in terms of legislative attitude? What does it mean in terms of effect? Thoughts?
Well, I think the main thing is that what did get passed this year were two important parts of the so-called barrel tax. The fee on petroleum products that go to energy transformation, to seed the costs of energy transformation. Last year, and it's something that kind of slipped by the legislature, I really believe, the Hawaii Natural Energy Institute, which has done groundbreaking work in a lot of these grid modernization issues, certainly the smart grid projects in Maui and a whole host of other things. Their funding from the barrel tax got sunsetted at the end of the session last year, or actually the end of the fiscal year. And I don't really believe the legislature intended for that to happen. So there was an important measure this year that reinstated HNEI's, or the Energy's Development
That is important.
Fund, special fund, and Energy Systems Development Special Fund, and that funds HNEI. That got reinstated, and along with that special fund and all of the other special funds, including the Department of Health's Emergency Management Fund, Department of Agriculture, as well as the Energy Security Special Fund, which funds the Energy Office, all of those now are aligned with our clean energy goals 2030. So they were set to sunset at the end of 2015. So the big accomplishment this year was that the legislature really was a vote of endorsement on our progress and the fact that we need to continue this investment through this source, and they've now aligned it with the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative goals at 2030, and it now will sunset in 2030. And hopefully we'll have our job done by then, and we'll be happy to say, yeah, we succeeded. We have now enormous majority of our power generation is now coming from renewable sources, and we've reduced, through efficiency measures, we've really so many gigawatt hours. Right now it's 4,300 gigawatt hours, but to achieve by 2030. But hopefully it'll be even more than that.
Well, yeah, I think we all hope that to do better than what the goal is right now, and I think we can. I mean, we've actually determined that probably that more efficiency could be done.
Right.
There's more opportunity out there than we had thought.
The job is never done, right?
It's never done.
But there's a great segue for Derek Sonoda. Derek, you have some news for us, please. Clue us in on Mr. Jewell, Mark Jewell.
I do. So many of you may have heard all the megawatt moments, and what Hawaii Energy tries to do every week is bring to you some tidbits of how you can participate in the energy world. And one of the things that we have done today is, there's all these professionals, all these subject matter experts, and we need more of them. And so we have this gentleman, his name is Mark Jewell. He is from a company called EEFG. And what he's going to be doing in the near future, next week in fact, and there's still a few bits of spaces open, is he is going to take energy people who sell them, who look at them, evaluate projects, and help them become an even bigger sales professional about this. And he calls this the Energy Boot Camp. And at this Energy Boot Camp, it's a 5-day graduate level extensive course to allow people to put a higher value on doing energy efficiency projects from 2 different points of view. One of them is going to be when you're selling a project. The other one is going to be when you're at an organization or a company and you want to add value into the way your organization really puts a value on it, and it may or may not even use the words of KW or KWH. So this is something that if you are taking a look at large projects, you are in the finance area, you're in the accounting area for your corporation, and you want to bring value into the energy world, into your company, you should seriously take a look at this class. Hawaii Energy has been subsidizing this program for 3 years now, and we're doing it again. 90% of the cost we are paying for. You pay a small nominal fee to get graduate level training, and this is really an excellent, excellent course.
How do I sign up?
All you have to do is come to hawaiienergy.com, go ahead and look at the education part, and you'll find the links, and you can sign up. Sign up right away. This is something that's extremely valuable
And
to
where
you
is
and
it
your
again?
organization. This one is going to be held in Waikiki at the Doubletree Alana Hotel, and everything is taken care of it for you. You're even going to get fed there, so it's a great deal.
Well, let me add that we interviewed Mark Jewell when last time he was just about to come here, about a month ago, I think, maybe a little more. And he's a great speaker, it's like a TED Talks level speaker.
Yes,
Super articulate, super smart, super helpful. I don't know how people like that can actually exist. I don't know how they, can sleep at night. He's so totally alive with information. So he's a great speaker. It's worthwhile. It's like a great program. And I'd like to come down there with my camera and take a piece of it.
Please do.
Okay, all right, I heard that.
We are very happy
Got
to
it
have
on the
Mark.
record, yeah.
He is so passionate about helping Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
Great. Here's a shout out to, actually I don't have to shout very far, a shout out to Hawaii Energy for bringing Mark Jewell in again.
Right. Well, thank you, and thank you to the customers of the utilities that actually pay for that.
Okay. All right, let's go back to Mark now, the other Mark. Let's see. We can talk about more legislative developments, or we should also talk about on-bill financing and how that's doing. What do you prefer?
Sure. Oh, we can do a little both. And there's some synergy there because one of the other successes of the legislative session was we had wanted to increase the bond capability or the bond ceiling for our GEMS program, the Green Energy Market Securitization.
GEMS.
GEMS, yeah, GEMS. That was passed last year as Senate Bill 1087 by the legislature. Our staff is hard at work and have been in heavy dialogue with the Public Utilities Commission, preparing 2 major applications. One that has to do with the way the program works, and then one on the financing.
Applications to the PUC.
Applications to the PUC to effectuate the program. And those will be forthcoming. Those applications will be forthcoming in the coming month or so. And we're still on track, we believe, to get this program into a place where we could be issuing loans by the end of the year.
Just for the scenario, so people can understand where this really fits in the landscape. This is industrial strength loans for industrial strength energy, renewable energy projects. We're talking about the bigger money, not your home, but some kind of commercial project. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's taking advantage, particularly now with bond rates as they are. Instead of using, Brookings, in fact, just came out. Brookings Rockefeller came out with a nice article and study where it compared traditional forms of financing. They kind of referred to them as anachronistic, where the rates of return can typically approach private equity rates, 12 to 15%. This approach takes bond financing. In fact, in the way it's structured, it can get very good bond financing, AAA, and then you merge it with with a repayment structure with on-bill, where it's essentially tied to the utility bill, and you have a very effective program with
Incentivizes both sides of the transaction.
and the major thing here is that it actually gives much more access to underserved markets, low and moderate income, and even nonprofits and others that pay their utility bills. They have the ability by applying for these loans to have a mechanism that is much more accessible to them than having to go sell their project to the bank, the local bank.
Well, let's flip to the other side of that. So I'm an investor. I want to buy a bond. What kind of rate of return? I guess it's a tax-free bond, like a municipal bond, or a state tax-free bond. Tell me what it's about. Why should I buy a GEMS bond?
Well, and the people to actually talk about that, I know that Calvert Young and others were in New York recently and had enormous response from the bond markets and from people who wanted to participate in this. And I think the reason why is that the potential of getting, dealing with an aggressive state that has a clear policy and it's really moving ahead aggressively, but you put together a program that when you match it with what we're using is a surcharge from the utility rates, basically part of the public benefits fund.
Public benefits fee that funds our program as well.
When you use that as securitization, it gives a great deal of comfort.
Sure.
And then on the back end,
So you get it's a bond that's secured. It's a tax-free bond. Is this something I can buy with my $1.50? Do I have to go through a bond broker, or is this meant for Goldman Sachs only?
no, this is definitely geared towards the large,
Big denominations.
the big players, and they're ready to participate. And then
They are ready.
They
We
are.
know that.
We know that.
It's just a matter of dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and they'll be sending checks.
They're chomping at the bit to participate. And on the back end, what we know is that by attaching this to on-bill, you're going to have very low default rates, and you will also be able to reach the underserved markets. So it's really a win-win from all sides. It's the first time that surcharge bond, that securitized bond approach, which Brookings is calling the Hawaii approach, has been merged with the concept of on-bill. And both of those together has created really a unique offering that you may see, once we get this up and running, it'll be proven, you may see it replicated around the country later.
Right now, there's nobody else doing it.
Not quite like this. The structure of using these kinds of bond financing, again, without the on-bill segments, have occurred. First New York, and they had a $1 billion program that was the initial program of this kind, and since then Connecticut has followed course, and really with Hawaii, these have become the 3 leaders in the country on this form of low-cost financing.
Knock wood for that. This is in tandem somehow, in process related to on-bill financing. Will one hold the other up? do you have to have them both at the same time? Do you have to have one before the other? I mean, what's the rollout sequence on it?
Well, you raised some of the hot questions today.
I didn't realize they were.
Yeah, the truth of men and Ray's been heavily involved, I think, in at least the on-bill financing side of the equation.
Right. I think they've changed the name around, but on bill we know what we're talking about there. But
On bill is when you get some PV on your roof, and good news, you get to pay it over time, and it's just added to your electric bill right there on your bill.
Right.
It's a great thing. You don't even feel it because you're not paying the regular charge for electricity, and you're paying this relatively modest, charge for the PV. And wow, it's just really handy.
So basically, our belief is that for on-bill financing, which is what you just described, and then on-bill repayment, which is a separate mechanism that will be used for programs like the GEMS program, that tariff can be essentially the same. That you don't really have to replicate a process to create multiple tariffs. So we're hoping that we'll be able to streamline and be able to tier on to the on-bill financing work, but we'll also have a separate order that should move forward independently and as quickly, and perhaps even be completed either at the same time or before OBF. We're hoping that the OBF program will be completed sometime in the coming months as well. Any word on your sense of the progress there?
Yeah, a lot of it is still in progress, as with the GEMS program, but it does seem to be coming along. And I'm not authorized to speak on behalf of the on-bill program, but we are the program administrator for that particular program. But there are other components. The utility's got a role to play, and a financial administrator has a role to play there. But they're very similar. They're being funded a little bit differently. The public benefits fee is funding the on-bill financing program for right now, and the GEMS program has the bond, which is a little different. It's backed by the public benefits fee, but it is a separate financing entity that is capable of bringing in the really, really big bucks.
So these applications, get one application for the on-bill financing detail, and you got one application for the GEMS detail, and they're both going in to the PUC, and the PUC is going to have it all sitting on the desk there, and they can coordinate it, sequence it, connect it. Is that what's going to happen here?
I really don't know for sure
what they'll do, but they could do that because it's both going to be sitting there at the same time, and they can have this conversation like we're having this conversation.
Well,
if they wish.
Yeah.
Well, they will certainly have a program order application as well as a financing order application from us. It should be very clear and straightforward, and we're hoping that we'll be able to work through that process in a very methodical and quick fashion and get the job done appropriately. We also want to make sure that that there is a adequate process and procedure to ensure that the on-bill portion and what Hawaiian Electric needs to do through their billing system will take place, and that will happen concurrently. And really the details right now are working those processes, really 3 separate activities simultaneously, and aligning that with what's going on with OBF to make sure that that we can take advantage of the work they're doing and this notion of whatever that tariff is ultimately going to be to carry out the program.
Yeah, and ultimately the work is notifying the public about what's out there, what they can do, how they can do it, what the benefits are, why should they do it, and all that. And I feel a strong sense that Derek Sonoda will be back right here in our studio.
Sure
in the
he-
not too
I'm sure he
he's
will.
gone already, but in the not too distant future, telling us about this on behalf of Hawaii Energy. Am I right, Ray?
I'm sure he will. But I want to say that the different programs that we're talking about right now, again, the final look of each program in the field and the financing behind it has yet to be blessed by the orders from the PUC. But it looks like there's going to be a nice selection so that no matter what your appetite is, there's a bucket for you to go to and work it. And the commonality, the main commonality is going to be that you pay the bill back on your power bill.
That's a real
and
benefit.
supposedly, you expect that whatever it is that you spent this money on will reduce your power bill. And there may be some restrictions on some of the programs that ensure that we have a bill neutrality or less in terms of your bill not going up and maybe even going down some. And then there may be some that for people who have an appetite and want to do a bigger project that they can do that. There's money that will be available for them to do that.
Well, I really like the idea of the bigger projects. Conceivably, there would be investors here in Hawaii that could invest in this. I mean, personally, I always thought it'd be a good idea to have local institutions or even, individual people who had the bucks to do it, to invest in energy projects. That would be good for us, I think. Anyway, Mark, we know that it's not finished. We know that it's going to have to go through some turns at the PUC. We know that we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I really appreciate you coming down on this.
Sure.
And I know that there'll be developments along the way. Maybe you can come back. You and Marissa Sakuda can come back
Sure,
and
absolutely.
talk about this from time to time. Because at the end of the day, I think it's really important the public know that it's in the pipeline and see it emerging and know what to do about it.
Sure, as we make progress and we get to the point where we do have, let's say in a few months, we do have a Public Utilities Commission approvals at certain levels, we are going to start marketing and we're going to start really aggressively getting the word out. So, and then by that time, the program order will have defined the specific uses and the applications, and we'll be very eager to talk about all of that.
Okay, all right, we'll hold you to that.
Okay.
We're going to take a short break. We're doing a midterm break, and this has been the first part of our show with Mark Glick, the Energy Administrator from Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism here on Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. Me and my co-host, Ray Starling, talking about exciting new developments in energy. Indeed, we have covered some exciting things so far. We're gonna take a short break. We'll be back with Crystal Steiner. We'll talk about car sharing, which is also exciting depending on what kind of car you like. And these are nice cars. Nice cars.